Some people are just really horrible, but it's actually okay. I look back at some of the ways I've behaved in the past and recoil. It makes me feel physically sick. How many people that you have an interaction with that are behaving horribly are a person going through a hard time? Let's have a little bit of a story time. Let's take you back. You're never going to get a boyfriend. No one is ever going to be attracted to you because you're going to be diarrheaing all the time. Because it was her putting out that energy. It wasn't mine to take. No, in the moment, I was somebody who was very hurt, very sad. I was grieving my health. Why? What is your reason? What is the reason? Like, why? That's all to do with that person. That's nothing to do with me. And you know what? Life's shit. Life's hard. I find it too difficult to live in this world. If I bring the negative vibes, I'm going to be honest. Oh, positive vibes over here. Sometimes, not always. My mum will beg to differ. So my advice to you is, hello, I'm Erin, and you are listening to A Conversation with Erin. This is our space where we can say what we want, share what we want, we can talk about anything, and have a chat. Because who doesn't love a good old chinwag? The older I get, the more I realise the horrible people stand out so much more than the good people, because I think good people stand against bad people, and you just don't really see, like, some people are just so horrible to another person, and it doesn't mean that they're horrible in all areas of their life. It might just be in that snippet of their life that I was a viewer to. But people can be bloody vile, like they literally can. And this is a conversation I have a lot. Some people are just really horrible, but it's actually okay. And I know you might be thinking, Erin, what do you mean it's okay that people are horrible? Hopefully by the end of this episode you'll understand what I mean by accepting horrible people, embracing them. To an extent, it takes a lot of energy to be horrible to another human being, but it also takes arguably more energy to choose to be kind, to choose to be understanding, and to choose to be loving to all human beings, all things, all bugs, animals, beings, environments. To choose to be kind takes up a lot more energy. I'm not holding myself as high and mighty. I have been horrible. I probably still continue sometimes to be horrible. I'm human. I'm not this ungodly being that is only ever good, kind, and loving to every single thing. I'm not. Nobody is. And if somebody is presenting themselves as that to you, the likelihood is they're probably fake, or they are some godly being that has been sent down to save us all. I look back at some of the ways I've behaved in the past and recoil. It makes me feel physically sick. Some of the things I've said and done in a group setting. A girl group is a bad environment for me to be. I feed off everyone's energy and behaviours. Now I don't think I would as much, but I did get caught up in a lot of bitching and nastiness. I would get caught up in a big girl group, and I think everyone is guilty of that. When you're in a big group of friends, when you're a teenager, you do get caught up in it. And I always think it's even worse for me, because I was also one of the ones that was continuously on the receiving end. So I would know how it felt and still choose to behave in a certain way at certain times. And I just look back and I'm like, oh, that's grim. You're vile. A vile individual I behave like. However, I wouldn't say I'm a horrible person. Some people might say that from their experience with me if they met me when I was very jealous, sad, lonely, desperate to fit in and be liked and be a chosen one. You'd potentially, depend on what day you caught me on and who you caught me in a conversation with, would have thought I was horrible. I would never be, and this is probably arguably worse, I'd never be horrible to anyone's face. I would always be nice to them unless they did something to hurt me, and then I would get quite angry, which we're going to come to later. And I was never like really spiteful by very icing someone out or anything. Like, I'd never do anything like that. I'd never instigate anything. But if there was a group slagging off just one person, I would participate. If there was my whole girl group decided that week that person wasn't going to be involved, I went along with it. And that speaks to my nature and the place that I was in at the time. There were times I said not very nice things about people because I was jealous of them. And I wouldn't dream of doing that now. Of course, I love a gossip. Who doesn't love a gossip? But I think there's a difference between having a gossip and being like, oh my God, did you hear? Then she's just vile. She's horrible. She's this, she's that. She looks vile. Have you seen what she's wearing? Like, that is just so nasty. It's got nothing to do with me. And yeah, I was that person. I'm not anymore. And I wasn't that person all the time. I would like to give myself some credit. I was that person some of the time. There were two sides to me. There was the real me and there was the me who got caught up in secondary school. The thing is, people can be horrible for many different reasons. I do think that some people will just be horrible. However, I think that a lot of the time they may be having a bad day, they may have bad mental health, they may have trauma, they may be jealous. There could be a million and one things going on for that individual that makes them behave and act in that way, which is why I guess I'm saying some people are just horrible and that's got nothing to do with you, and that's okay, because there's more going on behind the scenes. Let's look back behind the lens per se. On my bad days, I try not to mistreat anybody. I will go to shops, I will still plaster a smile on my face, and you may argue that's inauthentic, and you may actually say it's okay to be horrible to people because sometimes you're just not feeling it and you can't be nice all the time. Because being nice all the time and being sickly sweet all the time is exhausting, it's draining, it's fake. But I should have enough accountability of my own actions to put a smile on my face, say thank you, say my pleases, be polite, and then go about my day and my feelings. I would, however, argue that being nice to strangers is a massive talent of mine. I am so good at being nice to strangers. I love smiling at people on walks. You'd think I'm the Cheshire Cat. I'm like walking along, smiling. Hi, good morning. Have a nice day. People probably think she's crazy, and they're right. But no, like, I love doing that to people. And that's only since that I've experienced loneliness at university, and I would go days without seeing another human being, that now when I'm on my walks, I'm like, this might be the only interaction this person has in days. So that's when I'm like smarmy nice, because I'm like, I want to give them some positivity. I would even do that on my bad days, and that's when I'm kind of like, oh, give yourself a break, Erin. You don't need to engage with that today. However, that's to strangers, and I find it a lot easier to be very nice and tolerant of strangers than I do the people I care and love about the most. And on my bad mental health days, specifically when I went through a period last year of a really, really dark time in my life, I was horrible. I was so nasty to my mum and dad. I couldn't see past the pain that I was feeling, and that made me not a very nice person. I was selfish. I unintentionally, but I was just not very nice. I wasn't fun to be around. I was so angry at the world that I would snap at them, and I was hungry as well, so that made my anger even worse, and I was anxious, and I was just not a very nice person to be around. But that doesn't make me a horrible person. It's a person who's going through a hard time behaving horribly. And how many people that you have an interaction with that are behaving horribly are a person going through a hard time. And also, anxiety makes me at times appear to be horrible. I will have this face on if I'm in a setting that I don't like. I'll be like, that doesn't look like a very nice person. Imagine walking into a party and just seeing closed body language, just like avoiding eye contact at all costs. That's what anxiety makes me do. And that person doesn't come across as nice. They come across as cold, as a bit of a bitch, a bit stuck up. That's not who I am. When you get to know me, I'm not like that. And I wonder how many people I thought that about, that actually they're some of the loveliest people. It's actually happened to me before. There's been people that I thought they hate me, they're really rude, they're stuck up, and actually when I've got to know them, they're some of the nicest people in the world. And it's just a coping defense mechanism to put on that mask. And that doesn't make them horrible, that makes them human. It makes them a human who's just trying to protect themselves. And everyone should be allowed to do that. However that looks like for them, everyone should be allowed to have that defense. And it shouldn't matter what anyone else thinks of them. Because if I'm taking offence to that, that surely says more on me trying to get everyone to like me than it does on them presenting themselves as not liking me. When I think back, like I mentioned earlier, when I was saying certain things about people, whether that was me saying it to somebody else or whether that was me getting caught up in a group setting, how the hell did I have the energy? Like, why did I care? And I do think it's an age thing, because you're finding yourself. Like, I remember this one time, oh my god, this, like, I don't care about it anymore, but I was wearing flares before flares were in, a baker's hat, so it was 2018 Christmas, and this red polo top. If I can find a picture, I'm going to insert it here because I freaking loved my outfit. And we were going to Winter Wonderland for the day with sixth form. I really liked myself, and I'm not somebody who naturally feels, even though I wear clothes that I like and I don't really care whether it fits into fashion standards, I'm not somebody who always likes the way they look, but I really like the way I look this day. And I get there, and the first thing I hear is somebody who I was friends with talking to somebody else who I am friends with, say, like, just critiquing my outfit and critiquing how I look, and my confidence plummeted. I felt embarrassed. Bearing in mind this was an outfit I was going to have to wear in London the whole day. I felt insecure. I felt so many negative things, and that person gained nothing out of having that, maybe a laugh, and I lost so much just from that, like, couple of remarks, and it made me feel so small. And I now look back at that and I'm just like, it was just ridiculous. Like, it was kids being kids, that potentially they were jealous, potentially they were just, I was wearing something a little bit different that they didn't like, and people don't like people who are different most of the time. I love it when people are different, I embrace it, but not everybody has the confidence and self-assurance in themselves to embrace that. And I think back to some of the things that I may have said, potentially in earshot, or potentially that got back to people, and the conversations that I were involved in, even if I weren't making comments, the conversations I weren't actively shutting down or taking myself away from, I'm still as guilty as everyone else in that. And I think, imagine what that would have done to that person's confidence. And I'm so sorry if anyone that has heard me saying something negative about them is potentially watching. I don't know why you would be. You probably think I'm vile. You probably think I'm a bitch. But I just feel so remorseful that that was who I was, and I've accepted that, and I'm okay with that because I learnt from it, and I know that's not the person I want to be, or that's not what I want to be involved in now. And I know what sort of environments breeds me to become that person, and what sort of environments fuels me to become who I actually am, a much kinder, understanding, open-minded individual. But I just think, what could I potentially have done to other people? When I think of that and I'm like, what did that do to me? Oh, it was such a silly little comment that they probably didn't think anything of. They probably thought they were having a laugh behind my back. But it meant so much more to me than that. And that moment, that's not something that has stuck with me. And I also think as you get older, you learn to redirect your negative energy in other ways. I think some people probably still do. Maybe I'm talking very broadly. But I think when you mature, maybe not just get older, you realise that you gain nothing and the other person gains nothing from you putting your negativity onto that environment and that person and that situation. So by redirecting your negative energy and your negative feelings into other things like journaling, therapy, exercise, a passion, art, creativity, anything like that, by redirecting any of that trauma, that negative feelings, that them things that build up that make you behave in that way, prevents any of that. And I think maturity helps you realise that you gain from that. I do think though that people can do very horrible things unprovoked, which you will never have an answer for. And this is when I think it's hard to accept people are just horrible. Like, your experience of them is just horrible. And I think when you don't have a reason, or you can't in your head figure out a reason for somebody to have behaved horribly to you, I think that's when it's hard to be okay with your experience of that person, is that they are a horrible person. And I think for me, when that has happened to me, I created a lot of build-up of anger towards that person, and I dealt with the situation terribly, which I will share with you. And looking back now, I could have dealt with it so much better, like so much better, that would have been good for me as well as that person. And it took me a lot longer to heal from that than acknowledging somebody is just trying to make a joke, or they're immature, or they're getting caught up in the moment with a group of friends, or they're jealous. This situation I'm about to tell you, I have no reason for why they behaved the way they did. And for a long time, it really deeply affected me. However, I'm over it now. I don't really care. I've got no hard feelings towards that person, which I don't think I'd have been able to say a year ago. I think, if anything, when I look back on that situation, I look back on the way I reacted and I'm like, oh, it's so cringy. Let's have a little bit of a story time. Let's take you back. So I'm obviously not going to mention any names. Like, it's not that deep. This is just like to show you an example. So 2019, or was it 2020? It was 2019 or 2020, it doesn't really matter. But I had my Crohn's diagnosis, and I was posting about it a lot on social media. I was very into my YouTube content then. I was putting a lot of energy, like a lot of my negative feelings towards my illness and myself at that time, because I have a lot of self-blame into being very, very creative. It's what I said about using your negativity for good. That's what I was doing. And I was finding it a really, really positive outlet by posting videos of my journey of my diagnosis and sharing it. I found that really, really beneficial for me, and it was also helping other people. It was amazing. One of the things I'm most proud of ever doing. And I'm in the dining room at school, we're in sixth form, and this girl, she's such a gorgeous soul. I'm not in contact with her at all anymore, but this one girl, she's such a beautiful soul. I really, really liked her a lot. She pulled me aside and was like, I feel like I'm betraying this other person, but I've seen this post on this person's private story and I need to show you because it's about you and it's just vile. I can't remember exactly what they said, but it was a screenshot of my story, and I think I was doing a filter of like, when are you going to get in a relationship or something like that. And I can't remember what it said. She screenshotted it, reposted it on her story and was like, he basically said, you're never going to get a boyfriend, no one is ever going to be attracted to you because you're going to be diarrheaing all the time because of your illness, it's disgusting, I bet you smell, something like that. It was something very, very mature, something about me being a attention seeker or embarrassing because my YouTube videos. It was just very, very hurtful and spiteful, and it basically dug the knife in right where it hurt. Like, my illness was still very new to me. I'd never experienced this sort of discrimination. I guess it's not discrimination, but this sort of ableist comments towards my illness. And oh my god, I was a wreck. Like, I just broke in. And I still to this day have no idea why they posted that, they said those things. I haven't seen them since. They weren't a friend of mine, they were a mutual friend. I didn't even know that they knew me, like, in that way. I just thought they knew my name. Like, honestly, I had no idea why this person would have said those things, and I think that's what upset me and angered me so much, because I'm like, I remember just being like, why would they do that? Like, I tried to think, like, I'd never slagged them off. I just couldn't in my head wrap around why somebody would be that spiteful. And I think this instance has made me realise how my behaviour in that sort of interaction is so crucial to how I come away from it feeling. So instead of ignoring it, because I clearly wasn't supposed to see it, instead of ignoring it, not letting it impact me at all, I didn't ignore it. The first thing I did was go into her DMs. I didn't have her on any social media but Instagram. So I posted that on my private as well. So she must have been following my private. I don't know. But I DM'd her and I went off. I was not a happy bunny. I remember just being like, I don't understand. Like, you use lots of swearing. I don't understand why you would do that. Like, why? Like, I wasn't even arguing with her per se. I wasn't threatening her because I'm not that sort of person. I like, if somebody tried to get physical to me, I would just cry and like fall to the floor and just be like, just hit me. Like, I'm not like a threatening person. So I would have probably just been like, why are you doing this? Like, why did you say that? And obviously I didn't get an answer because she didn't have an answer, because she at the time probably didn't even know why she was saying such hurtful things. And I put so much anger into those messages that it didn't make me feel any better. It made me feel a lot worse, a lot more sad, because I asked the question that I wanted an answer for and I still didn't get it. I didn't get anything out of that exchange. I just got more confusion and anger because I was giving off that energy, so she was giving me that energy. So then I was just like even more sad and upset. I allowed the words she said to me, and because I confronted her, subsequent other not very nice words consume me, and by confronting it, I gave that horrible exchange so much more power than it needed to have. it was her putting out that energy. It wasn't mine to take. I chose to take it. And that was, I look back and I'm like, I don't even think I should have messaged her. Like, I know in the moment I was somebody who was very hurt, very sad. I was grieving my health. I was very protective over my illness. I still am. Like, I can understand where I was coming from, and I'm not angry at myself for behaving that way. Of course I'm not. I think it's a natural instinct. And I didn't, at the time, that was my only way. However, now I look back and I'm like, it would have been more powerful for myself to just ignore it. I'm not taking that negative energy in. You know, if something was said about my family or my friends, that's when I think, okay, step in. But it was said about me, and do you know what? You can say all those things. Yes, I still haven't found anyone, but I'm very happy, and my illness has taught me so much. And actually, if somebody doesn't want me in my sick body, then they're not good enough of a human being to have me in my well body. And I think at that time, that's something that I didn't understand, because I wasn't accepting of my sick body. I wasn't accepting of my illness. It was still very early days, so I understand that. And I think because of that, I was so angry at her. And I look back and I'm like, why? Why did you let her upset you and anger you in that way? And it's because I didn't have the knowledge of how to step back from a situation, observe it, and just go, do you know what? That's all to do with that person. That's nothing to do with me. I'm better than stooping to that level, and I'm just gonna leave it be, which is what I would do now. I would just go, it's gonna cause me more pain. Yeah, those words still really hurt, and you know, really did affect me for quite a while, but it affected me longer than it would have by me reacting that way. So knowing what I know now, and after going to therapy and going through even more trauma, I know that if I step back from a situation, yeah, it can hurt me, and I will deal with them feelings. I'll feel them feelings, but I'm not going to behave in a way that I'm not proud of, because they're gaining more from that than you. And also, I do want to say, the way you react definitely does affect what you get back. The pain that I brought to that created a defense mechanism within her, and rightly so, it would do to anybody. And instead of getting an apology or getting an explanation or trying to educate that person, nothing would have gone in. I was hitting a wall because of the way I went in. And I think that speaks volumes. You get the most out of a situation with what you bring to it. And the way I brought myself to that is, I wasn't aggressive. I also want to clear up, I was not aggressive. I'm not an aggressive person. I was just very sad and angry. I wasn't like, and I wouldn't even say I was angry the most, I was just very hurt. I wasn't aggressive, and by confrontational I mean I was argumentative. Like, I wasn't threatening or vile. I was just really trying to stand up for myself, but I think I didn't know how to do that in the best, most productive way for myself. If you're somebody who does need a good argument to protect yourself, then that's okay, as long as you're not violent or hurting anybody. But for me, I protect myself by dealing with my emotions privately and just accepting a situation for what it is and allowing that person to carry it, and just wishing them that they find their healing and their light in their own way. And at that time I just couldn't do that, so hence why I'm talking about it now, because it wasn't productive for me emotionally or anything really, and it wasn't productive for my family. Like, my mum was so, of course my mum would be angry. Like, someone's saying that about a little girl she's seen, like, severely ill. My mum was so angry, and by me behaving in the way I did, it just made everybody else more hurt and angry. This was 3 years ago now. So this person may have learnt from it, they may have grown, they might look back on that and cringe and regret it, they might not. And I just leave as much love and healing with that person as I can. Like, I don't wish any harm on that person. People make mistakes, and that is okay. And some people, like I said to you, are just horrible, and that's okay. Whether that person wants my forgiveness or not, I forgive their ill words and ill intent. Like, I wasn't supposed to see it, and I did. So actually, that was probably more painful from them. Like, there's nothing worse than sending a text to the wrong person in any circumstance. So, do you know what? Yeah, we all know that stomach dropping feeling. Like, we just do. And I also want to say there will obviously always be certain circumstances where intervention, whether that's authorities or talking to them or reporting them, whatever it is, talking to a school, a teacher, is necessary. Bullying, sexism, racism, homophobia, transphobia, ableism, discrimination against religion, hate speech of any kind is not okay, and that shouldn't come under the terms of being horrible. It's being hateful, and you cannot excuse that based on your mental health. You need to take accountability for your actions, and those people should be held accountable, and you should be safe. If you are feeling endangered, then that's a whole different thing, and that isn't being just bitchy or nasty or spiteful. That is very, very serious, and yeah, it's a lot more than just being horrible. And if you do feel like you need to report somebody, do it. Like, protect yourself at all costs. Don't think like you should accept all nasty behaviour. Like, you don't need to. I know what I'm saying is very airy-fairy, and it's like, just love everybody even if they're horrible to you. But if somebody's spouting off at you, being very if they're giving you very threatening hate speech and threatening body language, then you don't need to accept that, and you don't need to just give them love back. Like, protect yourself. I think there are some times though where there can't be an excuse for horrible behaviour. When people are just horrible unnecessarily, or they don't think before they speak all of the time, or they're not considerate, or they're selfish, or they're just really vile to people who work in shops or hospitality, I don't think there's any reasoning for that. And that's when I'm like, is it actually okay for people to be horrible? I don't think it is. And that's obviously when there's a complete contradiction in this episode and the title. Because that's not okay, and unfortunately there's not a lot you can do about it, which is why I think when I say it's okay, it's more protecting your own energy and protecting your peace, and accepting that some people are just vile, and you don't need to let that energy infuse you. Like, you can just let it go, and just, you can behave like that. Like, that's not coming into my atmosphere. But I'm like, why? What is your reason? What is the reason? Like, why? I do think, like, I am fascinated behind the psychology of somebody who is just horrible. Like, what makes them tick? Because in my head, like, my counselling and mental health brain's going, there's trauma. What are their dreams like? What are their thoughts like? Give me like an hour with them. Just give me an hour. I want to know it all. I don't know if you've seen it, but Olivia Attwood did a documentary with ITV. It was out, I think, last week, all about trolls and trolling. And there's like these groups of people that choose to troll somebody, and it's like a whole organisation just for, like, they're doing it just for funsies. crazy, crazy times. But when I look at that, I'm like, what is going on behind a person that wants to do that so much? Like, literally wants to make a career out of trolling. In my head, that, and I don't know whether it's my way of trying to see the world as airy-fairy as I can and romanticize as I can by going, they must be hurting to hurt other people. Like, that's where the line starts to get drawn of like, this is very unnecessary and it's very intentional. I think that's the difference. Trolling is so very intentional. You are choosing to write those words out, you're choosing to read over them, and you're choosing to upload them. There's a lot of choices going. It's not just sitting in a group of girls going, oh, she looks so silly today, and like getting caught up in the moment. That's a very intentional choice. And I think that's when I'm like, that's spiteful. That's really, really actually quite horrible. And maybe I could say that about the girl that was mean to me. I actually could. Like, that was a very intentional thing. But I guess she didn't intend on me seeing it. Whereas when people are commenting under people's posts and stuff, they want that person to see it. They're messaging them every day because they want them to feel pain. And that is bullying. And that is where being horrible is not okay. And it's not just an off day, and it's not just bad mental health. You're now very clearly trying to impact someone else. You're intentionally impacting somebody else. Whereas I think a bit of road rage or getting caught up in the moment, you're not thinking of the long-term implications or intentions that you might be having on somebody else. Whereas you know what you're doing when you're being like racist or homophobic or just very, very close-minded, and you're spouting off hate speech or you're trolling somebody. You know what your intentions are behind that. You're not stupid. And I think when you're a kid and people are horrible, you just think in your mind that like they're growing up. But as an adult, there are still very horrible people that have grown up and are still behaving in that way. And I think that's why I've decided to just kind of accept that people are horrible, because you can't change other people's behaviours, and by allowing people's negativity to affect your day-to-day life, you're just making a rod for your own back. You're just going to be sad. So by kind of like just being like, yeah, people are horrible, but it's got nothing to do with me, it's got all to do with them, I think it is a self-protection mechanism for me anyway, to be like, I'm in my little safe bubble. The world isn't pink and fluffy, but my world can be. And to be fair, it's a nice place to be. It's a lovely place to be. And I think the minute you allow someone's like horribleness, if that's a word, to infiltrate your space, you then push it out back, and then it's kind of like this frisbee match. Not frisbee match, what was that? Ping pong match of like horrible, 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 horrible. Everywhere I go, I'm horrible, and everyone else is horrible to me, and it's just negative. Whereas if someone's bringing in you negative vibes, and you put the shutters on, you're like, nope, and you just give off the positive vibes back to them, they're going to be confused. It might make them happy, might make them more mad. They might just be like, oh, whatever, and walk off. But then you'll get loads of positive vibes back, and then you'll give out more positive vibes. And that's the sort of way we want to live. We want to be on that wave. We want to just like be happy, everyone else be happy. We make other people feel good, other people make us feel good. And obviously it's not going to be like all the time. I'm talking very generalised terms here. Some people sometimes deserve a comeback or two. And I know it does take a lot, like, I'm going to be honest. Like, I'm not trying to act like that's easy for me. It's hard. It's hard work to be positive to somebody who's horrible. And I don't always get it right still. Of course I don't. I'm human. And it takes an active choice, and it's hard. However, a deep breath, I find, always helps me to just step back, step out of my body for a second, ground myself, remind myself of my morals, my values, what I care about taking from that situation, and then continuing. Also telling yourself, like, whatever the scenario, it's all to do with them bringing you horrible vibes, and it is to do with you and what you've got to give. And I think by reminding yourself of that, I find it quite comforting and reassuring, and that helps me to give them positive vibes, because I'm like, I can make this exchange positive for both of us, potentially. And if they're choosing to be horrible, then they've clearly got a lot going on. They're clearly not a very happy person. So I'm either going to try and make them happy, or I'm making myself happy by being proud of the way I dealt with a difficult situation. And you know what? Life's shit. Life's hard. Like, there's a reason I don't watch the news anymore. Life is dark. The world is a very dark place now. And being horrible just makes it 10 times harder for yourself and for everyone else. So I choose to bring the positive energy and the positive vibes, because I find it too difficult to live in this world. If I bring the negative vibes, I'm going to be honest, it's too much. Oh, positive vibes over here, sometimes, not always. My mum will beg to differ. Is trying to just make life bearable, to be honest. I'm just trying to live. And what I would like to end this on, it is sometimes to do with you. If you are an arsehole, people are going to be an arsehole back sometimes. And if everyone's an arsehole to you, not just the odd few, have a look in the mirror. That's all I'm going to say. Just look in the mirror. We're going to end that episode there. That was a whole train wreck, I feel. I don't know if it makes any sense. But I hope you've learned something from me. Who knew that you could do that? If not, I hope you brought your positive vibes. So my 3 gratitudes for this week. I am grateful for having a night in on my own tonight. I am grateful that I no longer feel like I am dying. No, I didn't feel like I'm dying. That was dramatic. But I was really, really fatigued, and I did think like, oh, this isn't good. But I feel better now. So I'm glad for feeling better. I'm grateful for that. Oh my God, it's raining. I'm grateful for the autumnal weather. Oh my God, it's tipping it down. So grateful for the autumnal weather. My hope for the future is that I continue to find plant-based foods and recipes and stuff, and continue on my plant-based journey. Exciting. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. It was a whole thing. I don't know what you're going to take from it, but I hope you can take something from it. I love you all so much. Thank you so much for your continued support. Make sure you follow or subscribe and rate or like, and also check out the social medias, link down below. And I will see you next Monday for another conversation with Erin. Goodbye.